Welcome back to iHeartRadio. So bad it's good. Today we have a returning guest. Very lucky to have him. He was on the show last year, and he is an amazing lawyer, a practicing lawyer. But also, I want to highlight his Twitter account, his Instagram account. I would not know what's going on with the Jen Shah stuff or Erika Jayne if it wasn't for this man's account. But he's actively involved, especially with the Erika Jayne account, in getting these victims their money, which is just so important. Attorney Ronald Richards, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Hold on. I need to shut a door. All right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Richards, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be here.
So there's been, it seems like, we talked a year ago when Beverly Hills, I believe, was airing, and there was so much stuff that we couldn't make heads or tails of. And I wanted to kind of get an update on where we're at, because it seems like there's actively things happening in this case all of the time. And my jaw was dropped this weekend when you had actually spoke with, on Saturday, Tom Girardi himself. And you posted a little piece of the conversation with him. And on top of that, you have the earrings being taken from Erika Jayne by court order. There are so many interesting aspects of this case. In your head, where are we right now, and what are you actively trying to do in regards to the Girardi case?
Well, Ryan, there's a lot going on because it's a very fluid situation. And what people don't realize is that I'm posting on various accounts for not just for sort of promotional purposes. That's like, honestly, silly if you understood my 30-year legal career. We're dealing with reality TV stars, and what they respond to is public perception, and that creates settlement positions, and it creates information. And this is a very important public case, and I was commenting about it in other cases long before I got involved in suing just one personality. So I'm not going to edit my Twitter page or other accounts simply because someone doesn't like what's going on the page, or they don't like that I comment about an unrelated lawsuit. I mean, over the weekend, it was ridiculous. I commented on the federal racketeering case brought by the Edelson firm, which was widely expected. In fact, they settled their Chicago case, and their insurance company paid all the victims their money. What law firm does that? I mean, that was a huge sort of, I would say, step that most law firms wouldn't take. I haven't always been warm fuzzies with the Edelson firm, but we both love basketball, and we both really have the same agenda. And so I would say for a long time, we actually are aligned on a lot of things. But when they basically dumped their insurance policy and paid all the victims, they have a cost to that, because now that firm has a $2 million loss reserve on their malpractice. So to me, that was a very true signal that they really cared about the victims. And I thought that was a ballsy, creative move. They paid everybody. Now they got the benefit of the assignment to bring a direct action against all the parties. And they filed a comprehensive RICO action in the Northern District, where their office is located. And now all these parties are facing civil RICO charges. So what we did is we just posted the summons. I redacted Erika's rental. I didn't even put the address out there. And I said, hey, the process server is coming to get you.
Yeah.
Like, again, Twitter is not reality. You have fun on Twitter. It's not, everything is not supposed to be, exactly accurate. And I love when stupid people tell me, you're not allowed to post things on Twitter. Why? I'm a lawyer. I'm an American citizen. I can post whatever I want. I mean, it's so silly. Like, I post things that I think people will laugh at, find interesting. I know people aren't pulling stuff off the docket. So I post stuff that I think people will find interesting, because Ryan, people like to listen for 30 seconds and they move on to something else.
Don't I know it? But I do want to say though, you almost say I can have fun and all that, but there's a great amount of information. Like I was talking about you on the show today in regards to the information you would put out there about the Jen Shah plea deal, and it really helped kind of crystallize it in my head of exactly what was going down. So I think it actually is this really interesting service you provide, but sometimes it's interesting when it does dissect or cross over with Housewives, because we're in this reality show mentality that everything's a fight, everything's drama. Erika Jayne seems like she picks the bait every time and then tries to get, it's just weird. And I wanted to, you brought up the racketeering charge, and I find it interesting is that this season of Beverly Hills, it's presented as Erika's legal problems have gone away. She's cutting loose. All that's behind her almost. And that is just not the case. In fact, there are new things happening all the time, just like this. What is it? A $25 million racketeering lawsuit?
It's a $50 million racketeering lawsuit, and they were seeking $55 million in punitive damages. But to focus in on what triggered all of this, I just posted, which I thought most people wouldn't know, is that the summons was issued. So I wanted sort of the public. I have a lot of lawyers that follow the page, so I want them to know, S is getting real. I won't use the word, but it's getting real now. Like stuff's going to happen. And so I wanted people to know, hey, we're in this position in the case, and that this is going to get posted, and that we need to, that she's going to now have to deal with this because her lawyer is in la la land and is pretending that, nothing's going down. And there's so many things going on. And we had a deposition slated in an unrelated case for her this week, set for tomorrow, which she canceled. And we now filed a stipulation to move some dates, and we're going to have it later in the month, which happens, but we thought it was going to be tomorrow. So I've been trying, as I always did when I was working for the trustee, to get her to focus and do a global resolution. So she can't withstand, even if she has someone paying her fees, money does not last forever. So I'm trying to get him to even defer a payment. She's good for a lot of this money because money was misappropriated from trust accounts that went to her. So anyway, after I
through EJ Global, right?
EJ Global, yeah, I went to EJ Global, and EJ Global. It didn't really go all to EJ Global. EJ Global was the entity that was on the books and receivables. Girardi Keese that owes the receivable, but the payments went directly to Erika's vendors, not EJ Global's vendors. It paid her Amex bill, her hair, glam, all of her personal expenses. And then Erika deducted those on her personal tax return. Again, so she whipsawed the deductions back into her 1040 with her husband and got a double dip. I mean, it's so crazy. Who deducts one expense on your business and then rededucts it on your personal return? I mean, you don't need to be HR Block to figure out you can't do that. I mean, it's brazen.
But, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It seems like there's so many of these moves. It's almost hard to keep track of how many things that are happening. I've also heard the fact that she, obviously owes money to the state of California. She has not filed taxes for EJ Global. I'm not sure if that is correct or not. So this thing is going to be ongoing. By no means is she even near out of the woods.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. So when I put that comment out there, she's never settled. All of a sudden she starts, and this is just on the Instagram page, she starts basically attacking my spouse, where before she had done this like a few months ago, like on I would just say like a boozed up night. Like, and again, I know she's a human being. It was just on the IG page. I had to verify it was her, but it's her. So the two of them went at it. I was just like, Erika.
And you can see those screenshots, you guys, but it's classic Erika Jayne, and even how she's been on this season, where she's not comedic. She thinks she is. She's sloppy with her words. And it's one of those things where I feel like she opens a bottle of Chardonnay and then goes online, and she's not as witty as she thinks she is. That's my opinion personally, not what you're saying. So it's really it kind of comes off as like a bullying tactic. She compares you to Tom Girardi. It's ridiculous.
That was the second time. Yeah, that was recently, but a couple months ago, she did the same thing. This is what I'm trying to tell you. This is not the first rodeo. So a couple months ago when she did it, I let it go. because I thought maybe she was just having a bad night, and my wife handled it pretty good. And I thought it was over. But when she put that nasty thing that I posted on my Twitter page, I was like, this is crazy. Like, who does this to like a younger woman? And when I said older woman, I wasn't saying anything about older women. I'm trying to compare. She's like 50 something. My wife's in her low 30s. It's like, what older person talks to a younger person that way? That's all I'm saying. Like,
somebody
I
desperate, somebody that's in her. Yeah.
I talk differently to a lawyer in their 30s or a person in their 30s than I do in my 50s. And I certainly don't get crass with them just because, they're not really my intellectual equal. They're not my age group. So I try to be more mature. And so that's what I meant. I mean, Erika's much older than my spouse.
Yeah, no.
All of a sudden she's saying to her really gross things that, I mean, if you knew my spouse, honestly, I don't think she understood what Erika was talking about. They were so vulgar. Really?
Well, I mean,
like
you're in Housewives land. You're in Housewives
Yeah.
land. You've been pulled into a storyline all of a sudden. And I find it interesting is that's how she hits is below the belt instead of actually dealing with the issue. And we've seen that now for many seasons. And I love that you had just said, I'm trying to get her to have this overall deal almost to get her away from trouble, but she is refusing to do this, right? She would rather get stuck in the muck and mire and go back and forth fighting with your wife and things like that. I mean, what do you think she's hoping will happen at this point instead of facing the issues?
Well, I guess if my wife left me, she'd be happy.
I'm talking financially for the case. Yeah. By the way, wait, as a lawyer, does this humor you, or do you get to a point where you're like, yo, hands off, man? Like, it's like the housewives always say, don't talk about the kids. Don't talk about the kids. Are you like, what's going on, man? Like, I know we're trying to get money back from victims that your husband stole from. Like, do you get does it personally hurt you?
No, because I've represented mobsters, narcotics traffickers, violent people, mentally ill people. I still have a couple mentally ill people I've represented recently that have done similar things. I mean, it
comes with the territory.
Yeah, that kind of comes with the territory. I've never had someone that I'm not. See, if I was representing them, it would make more sense. I've never had someone that I'm targeting in a case start calling family members that they don't know that are completely. It's just, that is not usually a good tactic. I mean, let's stick to the gladiators in the arena, not go out and look for other people. Like, does she really think that's going to be effective? So it doesn't get me mad. I felt like the reason why I publicized it was because I wanted the public to know, is this really a real person that would do this? I mean, like I said, Ryan, a lot of people online, I mean, I would say 95% of the people always say really good things about my posts and what I do. There's a couple of nutcases out there that are Erika trolls that just post stuff that are so ridiculously wrong, but I don't get mad about it. But what I'm saying is, it makes no sense if they start posting about people in your family. It's so weird. Like, what do they have to do with anything? And so I typically wanted people to say, by the way, even if they said something that was mildly insulting, that would still be probably, I could see it happening. But when you go to this level of vile, this level of profanity, that I would say literally 1,000 comments I got, over 650,000 people read that tweet. You have to think, what's wrong with this person? How could she do this? Even her lawyer was not happy with that comment.
Well, that was what I was. I mean, you deal with her law team. Do they have to apologize on behalf of her? Of like, our client, I'm sorry. And also, that's the other thing, is that, like, what kind of person does that? You were saying the exact sentiments that Beverly Hills viewers have said now for 2 seasons of what is wrong with her. Why can we, like, listen, even if you say I have no direct knowledge or whatever, you cannot have empathy. You're treating it like this, where it's a big showdown of words. It doesn't make sense to any of us.
Yeah, well, a lot of people said it was alcohol and Lexapro. I don't know what she's doing. I think if you drink, you definitely get a kind of a sassy mouth. But her comments are kind of garbled sometimes. They don't make sense. Like, no one's having a showdown with her. I'm going to sue her again next week. I have a new lawsuit, just so you know. I'll reveal it. A lady that is that had a child with Nicolas Cage. You know, he's an Academy Award winning actor.
Yeah, of course.
You know him? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm filing a lawsuit, maybe filed this week, where Girardi literally took the check, a settlement of $924,000, put in the account, and immediately dispersed it and started paying expenses for him and Erika. So, and there was, lawyers on the case involved with it. And she already has a default judgment against Girardi in the bankruptcy, but I'm going to go after Erika to return some of that money. Now, would I want the entire $900,000 from Erika? No, but if Girardi misappropriated my client's settlement and let's say gave Erika $100,000, okay, and paid her Amex bill, why does Erika, just like the earrings, think she gets to keep the stolen, embezzled money? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why won't you just return that money when I show you the math?
But see, that's what I'm saying. What is the reasoning behind that? Because we've said now the viewing audience is like, listen, I get that it was a gift. I get that. But if I got earrings and then I found out later it was from ill-gotten funds and it belonged to, I would gladly hand them over and apologize, saying that I did not know anything to do and I don't want anything to do with this. Why is pride always seems to be her downfall? It's not about her. It's about these victims. Yet she's saying everybody wants to bring Erika Jayne down. And that's the part I have a hard time wrapping my mind, because it's almost egotistical to think this is like, no, it's just about the money. It's not about you.
Because her lawyer wrongly believes that if she has no knowledge of the embezzlement, that she gets to keep the proceeds. And that theory is being unraveled in court, every time. And she believes that they were gifts. But what's so crazy is nobody told her, even Tom in his phone call with me, he said, that she got everything she's supposed to get. But I didn't want to argue with the guy. I just wanted to let him talk. But what's so nuts is that, he didn't give her the gifts and say, hey, I just stole this money from the clients, honey. I'm buying you something. I mean, yeah. I doubt he said that to her. But if anybody in the world's given you a gift and said, by the way, I just robbed a bank, here's your gift, most people would say, I'm giving you it back. Well, stealing from the trust account is like robbing a bank. The same thing. It's not your money.
Yeah. Once you're aware of that knowledge, it shouldn't even be a hard decision for you, which is always what's so weird. Speaking of the Girardi phone call, it really was revelatory. He called you, though. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
He had called you earlier on Saturday. I want to make sure that people know you weren't like speed dialing Tom Girardi on Saturday.
Okay. Let me just bring everybody in the room. I was actually sitting in my East Coast office, okay, with my office manager, and our service rang. You could never call me directly. Let me just tell you, Ryan, I'm I take precautions because of my job. So I don't play the game of I called you, you called me. Everything is documented with a technological data pack. So I'm not trying to be granular, but I'm trying to say that a lot of times cases do fall on, did I call them or did they call me? So that's a great point.
No, you're creating a trail. That's very smart and doing what you do.
If you call my office, there's no such thing as calling me and I pick up the phone directly. It's impossible because I need a tracer to understand where the number is, who's calling, and why. Okay. So what happened is I was in my office doing work, preparing for a arbitration that week. And I heard the phone ring from the service and I pressed the speakerphone and it announces who it is. And the phone said, Tom Girardi. And I recognized his voice. So I looked at my office manager. I'm like, holy cow. I go, this has got to be too good to be true. And for all the dummies out there that can't think I can't record it, you're wrong. I'm in a different state with one party consent. You apply federal law. And I also want to tell you, if I didn't record it, you would have said he never called me. So I had to record it. I had to do it because I didn't want to run the risk of anybody saying I did something wrong. Okay, that's why I recorded
Yeah.
it.
And up to this
Right.
point, how many times have you talked to Mr. Girardi in the last couple of years?
I had never spoken to Mr. Girardi ever in my life.
Wow. So this was the first time. And we hear a little clip of this on your Instagram page. We actually, I'm going to link this in his link tree. You can actually hear this clip. I believe it's like a minute and 35 seconds.
Yeah, I edited the clip to that minute because I asked him about Erika, and I wanted to establish, which I corroborated with her legal team, by the way, that she does speak to him and that she did speak to him about the deposition.
And she admitted on the show last season that she speaks with Tom.
Yeah. So who cares if she speaks to him? And I wanted to dispel another dummy rumor. Just because he has a conservatorship, he's not immune. He doesn't get immunity from a phone call. I mean, the conservatorship means he can't manage his own financial affairs. It doesn't mean you can't talk to him. Okay?
I mean, he's able to go out and have a meal if he wants. And
yeah, and I'm not
he's still
counsel.
doing things. Yeah.
I'm not his opposed. I'm not opposing him on a case. I'm reporting on Tom Girardi.
I also want to dispel them. I always say on the show, two things can be true at once. Tom can actually have issues with his health and all of these other, like he can still talk to Erika. He is still, I'm sure, with it at times. He seemed a little, he seemed relatively making sense in the phone call with you, or the clip that I heard. He was making sense about, well, I just talked to Erika. That's why I called you, because he was like, this is craziness, I believe what he said. And yeah, I found that interesting.
Call with the beat goes on. So he was it's an older guy expression. So I said, Mr. Girardi, what's going on here? Why are you calling? And then he wanted to know if he had a lawyer still in the case. I said, of course not. Your bankruptcy's been non-dischargeable. You don't have any lawyer. You have a conservatorship. I basically just kind of gave him a rundown of where things were. And then I wanted to focus on Erika and if he had any conversation with her, because I was going to ask her about it in the deposition. So I had a forensic reason to know if they're talking or collaborating, because we're investigating the source of Erika's legal fee payments. And so that's the subject of an upcoming motion, because we believe that that the source has a long-standing relationship with the Girardis. And so they're trying to prevent us from disclosing those sources or interviewing people and explaining why we're using certain names. So with respect to this call, he called, and so I immediately hit the video button on my phone, and I held it down the entire time. I didn't even do press it. I just held it because I was too nervous about it, losing it. I redacted on the published portion his phone number, but I could call that number, and I'm sure he'd answer the phone right now. It was his cell phone. And then he called back again, but I didn't take the call because I didn't want to sit on the phone with him all day, because I felt like
you got the information you needed.
Yeah, and I didn't need to what's the word I'm looking for? Gild the lily or overkill this thing.
You're not trying to get, you're trying to, in the end of the day, get this money back. You're not trying to be world famous. You're not trying to be on the reality show. You're actually doing this. So yeah, listen, a podcaster like me would take the call, but you actually have things that you're going to be trying to do with this case. You got that information. Do her lawyers then immediately contact you and be like, we heard you talked with Mr. Girardi? Does this get back to them?
They don't represent, Erika's lawyers don't represent him, so they were very careful not to defend him. Otherwise, it's a slippery slope, because he did steal the money. Okay, that's not a point of dispute any longer. That's a provable
fact, everybody. That's a provable fact.
Very provable that he misappropriated money from clients. Honestly, that is not even a debatable point anymore. So no, his lawyers never contacted me. One of her lawyers mentioned it to a co-counsel of mine and basically was suggesting that why am I, basically just suggested that the call doesn't foster settlement, that I published the call, but it's really not related to Erika. The public needed to know that this guy is smart enough to know. I'm going to tell you what he's smart enough to do, which is very important, which people don't really unfortunately see nuances sometimes. He was smart enough to talk to Erika, smart enough to know who was taking her depo, smart enough to get my office number, and smart enough to call me. Okay, so Does he have dementia? I don't know. He was smart enough to do all those things, and maybe he has some moderate dementia, but that doesn't mean that there's a fine line there. He had no choice but to basically self-incarcerate himself, because otherwise he'd be indicted. So the issue is he took a pathway where he says he sees clients at the senior home.
Yeah, that was the other thing he said, and it was like, I see clients still here, and I
Yeah.
thought that was very.
I don't know if I believe that. A
Yeah.
lot of people were mad saying, "Do I believe that?" I'm like, I don't know whether I believe it or not. I just am reporting what he said. You can believe whatever you want, but the fact is the guy knew all about the debt, but he also still had enough cognizance to defend her and say everything she got, she was supposed to get. Well, maybe in his mind, but that doesn't mean legally.
Well, I mean, and just because I know you've explained sometimes on your Twitter the Michael Avenatti case, which he is now going to prison. We have the Jen Shah thing. Like, in terms of Tom Girardi, and I know this is not what this is about particularly, but where are we with like his crime since he is in a assisted living facility? Does that excuse him from? He can't be charged. That's what I wanted to. Yeah, so there's no movement.
He's not going to be charged if he can't participate in the defense. You have a right to
That's
counsel,
wild.
but you can't be effective if the defendant is suffering from mental illness.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So then moving back to the Erika Jayne of it all, the $50 million, she had to give back the earrings that we were talking about earlier. And in fact, she had to do it by court order. She never once willingly handed those over. Why do you think? I mean, she just was going to fight this to the very end, even though it was costing her money to fight this,
Well, because when I wanted to get her earrings, earlier in the case, I was telling her lawyer that it's hard to pry jewelry off a woman's ears. It's hard to do that. So let's have the benefactor or whoever cut a check and do a global, because things are going to come out and we're going to do the tracing and you're going to lose the earrings. So let's try to settle it for cash now. And they thought because it happened so long ago, the judge would be cabined to a 7-year statute of limitations on a fraudulent conveyance, not recognizing that there's cases when other lawyers have misappropriated money from the trust account. They've applied a probate statute, which basically stalled the accrual of the statute until it was discovered. So that way beneficiaries in a probate case who had their funds stolen and didn't know about it would not be without a legal remedy.
Yeah. That's wild. Does anybody in your office or you, I know we talked about this last time, or do you have to watch these episodes still, or somebody in your office? Because no. Garcelle was talking about the earrings even on one of her talk shows, The Real, saying like, yo, I don't know why she isn't just giving these things over. This was months and months ago. So I don't know if you're even looking for clues anymore. I mean, you have a mountain of evidence about this stuff at this point. Does the show even factor in at all her behavior on this anymore?
No, because so much evidence has come out. And before, when I was teasing her saying we were transcribing the episodes, it was really to rattle her cage and to basically get her to, what I was hoping is Andy during production and basically the show would say, look, this is getting so out of control. We got to make her do something good, or why are we having this person who has benefited from really horrible thefts and misappropriations and transfers to her? Maybe she would agree to do something right. So unfortunately, sometimes in cases, the pachinko ball bounces the wrong way. And for a second, when I was wrapping up the case last year, there was a difference of opinion dealing with various facets of the case. And I felt like I couldn't stay on this case for free for another year. I'd already burned a couple $100,000 in fees. I felt I could do more doing individual cases, not being restricted by the parameters of being a special counsel for it kind of in a more conservative type thing. And also I felt like I would have my lien anyway on the fees that I'm just dividing in some allocation with the current special counsel. And I would still put the same amount of pressure on Erika. And frankly, I'm successful enough that if you ask me, what would I rather do, be special counsel or be allowed to tweet and sue her for 7 other clients? I rather do the second, because I'm not going to do this if I can't tweet or I can't put out documents, on DocuCloud for the public to read or answer questions. It was getting to be like every time I would do something, I would second guess if her lawyer was going to try to, make a digression. And if the case is, if your sort of public persona is interfering with your ability to do the case, and, not everybody's agreeing with your tactics of pressure, then maybe it's better to do another case where the client likes the pressure. See, all my clients now that I'm suing her for, including the cases I'm co-counsel, the 2 lawyers I represent, Nicolas Cage's ex, and other people that I'm suing her for, they love the tactics because that's what they want, because they got their money stolen from them. So they want that rage directed at the other side. The trustee has a lot of different components, and sometimes my tactics in litigation style and things that are going on in a case may not always run a line, and that's okay. That's the beauty of it, but in this case, I feel like I'm more effective with Erika if I'm unshackled. I feel like if I'm shackled, we're never going to get a settlement from her because she's always going to think I'll just push it off. And that's her.
Yeah.
That's her, like her deposition. She keeps pushing it off. We've told her it's a really bad idea, honey, to have your deposition taken. You don't know what you're talking about. When you say, I don't know, it's going to get the I don't know defense, the willful blindness defense. It all falls apart when you get questioned. Okay.
One day she will have to sit for the deposition, though. One day. I mean, it can only get pushed.
Today. She's going to sit in 2 weeks for her depo. It's going to be.
Would you let that be filmed for Bravo or clips of it?
I don't think Bravo will film it. I don't think she wants it filmed. I mean, typically you don't film a depo, you just take the depo. But Erika's strategy with everything I do in all my cases is she wants to keep it under seal, and then we oppose it, and we have a hearing on it with the judge. We say courtrooms are open to the public. If it was up to her, we would try them in Mars. Everything would be secret. You would never know. It'd be like a Soviet courtroom or a Moscow show trial, with the basketball player Greer. She doesn't. I get the most hate mail I get is from foreigners saying, "How do you Americans allow the litigants to? How do you guys get to know what goes on in the courtroom?" Believe it or not, that concept is offensive to a large part of the world, where to me as an American, it's the most offensive that you want to have secret trials and someone like you, Ryan, doesn't get to know what's going on. I mean,
you don't need mystery tribunals to that we never get to. Does it ever impress you in terms of Bravo and the passionate audience that I feel like this might have turned some people into lawyers? Like I've heard people going to law school because they got inspired by digging into these things. Does that ever it kind of amuses me sometimes, because this is it's actually turning people on to the law, which is what you have studied your whole life.
I mean, look, everyone loves to tell me Kim Kardashian went to law school. I'm gonna tell you something. Here's the 3 types of lawyers. The first type is one that they got a law degree and that's what they have. They would not last 6 seconds in a courtroom. Okay, but they do have a law degree, so they're a lawyer. And then other types of lawyers are they were a lawyer and then they're retired, so they're out of the game. So they're what we call a retired lawyer or a non-practicing lawyer. And then the third type of lawyer is a practicing lawyer that goes to court every day and actually has a sharp razor. Now, out of those lawyers, there's still a group that shouldn't be going to court. They're just not very good, or they're doing things they shouldn't supposed to be doing. And then there's a really good group that are actually trying the cases and doing things. And those are the lawyers that I respect and listen to. And if they didn't like something I was doing, it would mean a lot to me. I wouldn't blow it off. But with respect to people going to law school, a lot of people call me and they say, hey, I want to go to law school. A lot of parents say, could my son or daughter clerk in your office? And I always say, sure, but they really got to work. I mean, being a lawyer, it's good, but it requires a tremendous amount of dedication on a weekly basis to really do it effectively. And so I would just tell you, and my laryngitis is gone, but I'm,
no, all good. Yeah, I'll cut this out.
I would just tell you that to be good at it, it requires a weekly training of reading new cases, of digesting material. And if you like all that, then it's great. But what I find is,
you mean it's not just watching Bravo? It's not just watching Bravo okay.
No, and I think that when people try to do it and they get through their first year in law school, they don't like it. That's the problem. It's like, it sounds good when you watch it, but when you see me articulate something, I mean, I've been doing this for almost 30 years. It's too long. I should stop doing it. But I'm saying, I don't want to keep work.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, yeah, I don't want to keep you all day, but I do want to ask you a couple last things here in terms of the Erika. We were talking right before we started, and listen, there's a Pasadena home that has been on the market. It's Tom Girardi's home where he flipped the car, and you guys all know that. And of course, Erika's in her little shack or whatever she's in now. What's going on with the Pasadena home?
Well, it's a real tragedy because the price keeps getting lowered, and now we're in a real bear market in California real estate. I mean, the market has really changed, and so the price was just reduced to 7.5. We just put in an offer, in close to the 7 figure to try to get it done. But this thing has been reduced millions of dollars already. I mean,
yeah.
From 13,
and this money, if you got this house, would that money go directly to the victims? How does that money get dispersed?
Yeah, well, it's going to go to the secured lenders, their creditors. I wouldn't say, but the secured creditors have a deal with the victims. They have a split with the estate.
Yeah.
So some of it will go to the victims based on the estate split. But my interest and my spouse's interest at this point, because I put her on this offer because she was so abused over the weekend, is that our interest is to have it as a museum so people could see how these people live, and just to leave all this stuff there and have it open to the public. I may have a few parties there open to all my Twitter followers.
If this happens, I would love to donate the Tom Girardi lingerie I got at his office auction. This was the agent provocateur underwear that he didn't get for Erika, supposedly, that I won at auction. I would love to donate that to the house as part of the museum if that ever happens.
Yeah, I'll be bidding on some of the stuff the trustee is selling. He's having a dispute.
Yeah, by the way, September, right? They're doing a whole new auction.
Yeah, he's having a dispute with one of the lenders, whether they have a lien on it, but they don't. So I think that'll go to auction. And then the other thing is, if I take a deposition, I would just have to notice Erika's depo at the house, and some other key players. I would invite.
I mean, maybe your spouse could be in the little prayer room that's in the Pasadena mansion, and we could do a little photo shoot, just to rub it in. Maybe even lend her the earrings for a day. I don't know. I don't want to.
Well, I'm going to bid on those earrings. I mean, those are going to go to. I'm for sure you can 100%. I will be bidding on those earrings. So we will have fun with that. And then all these comments, we won't have to say anything, but at the deposition, David Leary used to go over there every Thanksgiving for Christmas, for every holiday. So I may invite him and Jacqueline, his wife, to come over, since I took his depo. He's a nice guy.
Rent it out to Bravo for one of the Housewives parties. Like,
I may do that too. Money. I'm going to have some fun with it and then fix up. It's very dilapidated, and then I'll sell it. But
you guys, I know I joke around a lot, but this is, I'm very aware that this is a serious situation, but there is humor in, at least I try to find humor in every bad situation. And this is one of them. I would be remiss as I let you go here that the Jen Shah stuff, you had been predicting this for a long time.
Oh my God,
why
painful.
Wait until a week before? Because I hear that almost like, hurts your case when you're doing it this close to trial. What do you think the final straw, if you were just to guess as a lawyer, why did it finally happen? And how do you then present this information of pleading your case on Bravo and using it as a public forum to say that you're not guilty, and then all of a sudden I'm guilty?
I mean, it was a calamity of horrible legal decisions, maybe combined with an unrealistic client. I can't figure it out. I think her lawyers are actually pretty classy. I'm hard on them because, see, when I do criminal law, if the criminal client doesn't listen to me, I literally will grab them by the neck and say, you're taking this deal. Like, you're going to come to my office. I'm going to take you to a prison today and show you what a prison is like. Do you want to stay there an extra 5 years? Because if we don't do the deal, you're going to be there another 5 years. Let's talk about what 5 years means with your 6-year-old kid. Okay. So I try to show them that 5 years means something. Jen wasted a level by not pleading early. She wasted trying to negotiate a different type of plea, which they would have been really happy about. Instead, she basically got the worst deal you could possibly get, where the judge cannot even, you basically told the judge you can give her 14 years and she's waived appeal. And this judge will give her a strong sentence because there's a lot of enhancements that Jen pled to for, a certain amount of victims. And then also
they did away with the second charge about wire fraud, right?
That saved her. It meant nothing on a guilty plea, but cosmetically, it saved exposure of another 30 years and exposure, which she would never get, but it saved her some what's called a grouping enhancement. She may have saved her a little time, but that was a fair trade. There may be less evidence she money laundered, but what was the real whopper was the $6.5 million forfeiture judgment, because Jen and Coach Shah love money, and now they're not going to have any because that judgment's going to be enforced immediately. And she's going to have to come clean with all her remaining assets. And my criticism of her lawyers is, first she hired a very expensive DC, New York firm. Then they bailed on her and told her to get a small firm out of New Jersey, which she did. And then that firm represented her, filed a bunch of motions. Looks like they burned through the trial fee. And then for whatever reason, realized that it was going to be a bloodbath when they saw what's called the Jenks statements, like all the witness statements they probably gave
they have to show them, right?
Yeah. So probably in the last week, they got all the statements of Stewart, of all the people that said, yeah, I dealt with Jen. Yes, I dealt with Jen. And you got to understand, all these crooks were so happy she was going to trial so they can get their 5K motions. That's how you get out of jail in federal court. You snitch on somebody else.
Well, and Stewart still will have to go to jail, even though he turned on or he flipped on Jen.
Yeah, Stewart
he'll still have to
happy.
go. He's not scot-free on this at all.
No, but if Stewart if Stewart would have got to testify, you get a bigger departure because he could then argue he was humiliated in public. So he was cutting his wrist last night when they said,
I didn't even. Wow, that's okay. That's really fascinating. And then
Stewart, the biggest loser of Jen's plea was Stewart, because he didn't really suffer anything except, his lawyer is going to say, if it wasn't for Stewart, she wouldn't have pled guilty. But they're going to say, no, she went all the way to trial. But had Stewart been able to testify, he would have been, the government would have filed a motion and said, look, without Stewart, we wouldn't have won the case. But now we didn't need Stewart.
Wow, I didn't even think about it. And we really won't know the deposition because she got to see a statement, but she didn't get to see his full deposition, correct?
Oh, no, the judge ordered it disclosed to her last week.
Oh, okay. I thought he just got like a little statement of
no. There was a court order to release the depo last week. I
was interested. They were throwing everything at the wall because they even did that one motion that they didn't want to be able to refer to anybody as victims because that would paint Jen Shah in an unfavorable light. And I thought that was so interesting that it seemed like her lawyers were just getting desperate and trying to file as many things as possible to distract and confuse like Jen Shah does on the show. I find that really interesting and sad that she used $1 million of her mom's retirement fund, according to the show, to fund this defense and to plead guilty. I just can't imagine what that's like. So you're saying she'll definitely do more than 5 years in your opinion?
My God, she's going to do it. I'd be surprised, honestly, if she does less than 8 years. I mean, she's really looking at 9 to 11 years. I mean, realistically. And they don't do parole, right? They do good behavior at the prison. She would be 85% she has to do. And Stewart, She tried to subpoena Stewart right before the trial for all of his communications with his lawyer. And that was the subject of a motion to quash that was going to be heard right before the trial. But Jen Shah, by the way, blocked me on Twitter, which I find very odd. Normally I don't get blocked.
Yeah, she blocked me. She blocked me too. Yeah.
Yeah. But Jen Shah, and I'm not trying to be mean, she's really stupid. That's really the unfortunate thing, because only someone that is that stupid would go on a reality show and pretend that you didn't do anything and keep this going. I mean, she could have turned this whole thing around in a lot of ways and made it 10 times worse, you know. And I heard her interview. She did an interview on a YouTuber. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very bad interview. Good for Adam, but it was bad for her.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was a great get for him, but for her, she didn't really say anything. Like, it was a bunch of.
It was pointing it out about her sons and like trying to distract to what actually happened. And yeah, it was. And I love Adam, but it didn't really do anything.
Yeah, he got used by her.
The same BS.
And also the Shaw squad. She kept talking. Where is the squad? Like, are they going to bail her out? Like,
I had so many people in my DMs. I had so many fans in my DMs that have actually communicated where she's given the cell phone, and she would, you know, they were all shocked. She had been claiming her innocence, and this really shocked them. It didn't shock me because I was like, well, now I'm really curious about the defense. Can she make money? She's going to continue to film with Bravo. Does that money go directly to this $6.5 million judgment?
It's supposed to, because they can garnish her wages. At least 75% would go to her. They can take up to 25% of it. If it goes into the bank, it's all susceptible to levy. She's got to be very careful now that she doesn't play games with her income because of the judgment. That'll affect her. There was an immediate consent judgment entered. But she's just very arrogant. Like, the problem with this is she's mentally believes that she's a fantastical character, even though on the interview she tried to say, you know, that she didn't really this is not really her. The whole way she treated the case was she thought she was untouchable because she was on a stupid show. And let me give everyone a real reality check. If you get indicted, you have no friends. Everybody always runs because they're afraid. Your real friends are even afraid. You don't need all your real friends, by the way, to save you if you're innocent. You can just get the witnesses that are going to tell the truth. And normally the system will exonerate you, hopefully before you get indicted. But once in a while, they do make a mistake. In this case, right when her assistant turned and said, I committed all these crimes with her, how are you going to unravel that egg? You know, that cracked yolk. I mean, come on. I mean, he's your inside person saying he did all this with you, and he's pled to 15 years.
And we've seen him on the show literally picking up poop of your dog right next to you, and you can't say, I don't know him now. You can't say he's not close to me. You said how much you love Stewart. It's really fascinating. Is she allowed to say on a show, though, that like, listen, I'm innocent, but I had to plead guilty? Is she allowed to like kind of lie further on national television?
Great question, Ryan. If she does that, then the government will yank her acceptance of responsibility.
That's what I wanted to know, because I could see her painting it in that way of, I had to for other people in my family, but I am innocent. And
she didn't do that, though. Her lawyer went on page 6 and said that she wanted to make it
she's
right.
A good woman that made mistakes.
And she said she was sorry in her plea colloquy. She's not going to do that. She's stupid, but not suicidal. I mean, come on, that's crazy. She switched because somebody that she trusts got her out of the fantasy and said, Jen, you'll probably do 9 to 11. If you go to trial, it's going to be 13 to 17. There's a huge difference there, Ryan.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
Well, this has gone too fast, and it is just vastly interesting to not only me, but the audience. And then just like you teased this thing on Twitter the other day about OC. You were like, Real Housewives of Orange County. You're like, the 2 that left aren't the 2 that needs to be worried. You were like, I don't even know what you were teasing in that. Are you allowed to like even hint at what you're like, a hint again? Because you did this. I think you know what I'm referring to. You tweeted that like the 2 cast members that got let go were not the 2 cast members that potentially should be let go or something.
Well, I think I was talking about, I think,
Dr. Jen and Noella got let
yeah,
go.
yeah, they were let go, but here, let me scroll down to the actual tweet so I can see what you're referring to. I retweeted a story about this, um, about it, but hold on.
Yeah,
Let
no, it
me
was
just,
great. Because I was like, holy crap, he's even talking about OC here.
well, let me just tell you, her husband, Nicole's husband, I've been calling out for a long time because something's, missing.
Noella's husband, the personal injury attorney, right?
Noella's husband, correct.
Yeah, Sweet James. Yeah.
Um, okay, yeah, okay. When I said we know two more who should gracefully exit as well, I was
That's it.
referring to Erika Girardi and Jen Shah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you meant two other people on the OC cast. And I was like, what is going on in the OC now? Like,
No. I was just referring to two other housewives. Yeah, Noella Berginger. I mean, she really shouldn't be a housewife anymore. I mean, I'm glad she left because she's literally, her husband has all sorts of issues, and I mean, she's what is she? She's not really a housewife. I mean, it makes no sense. And their whole thing was questionable from the beginning. And Jen Armstrong has a lot of lawsuits that I've talked about, and a lot of issues as a doctor. I can't really weigh in on who's right, but most doctors. I mean, I've been an employer for almost 35 years and never been sued by an employee. Jen Armstrong seems to pick everybody that she has problems with. So again, it's not like because you're in lawsuits, you're a bad person, but these are all symptoms of, if you're going to be on a high profile show, you need to sort of be a little bit more, run your office better to where your employees aren't suing you every day.
they don't seem to learn, though. I mean, we keep getting women that are involved in some kind of criminal activity, financial and otherwise, and it's not always been this way with Bravo and reality shows. So it's really taken a dark turn. But Ronald Richards, I really need you guys to go follow all of his stuff because he really does keep me updated on a daily basis. And there seems to be things dropping all the time. And it's really important, remember, that we get a narrative sold to us through Bravo, but it's really important to actually kind of look into the real narrative. There are real victims here. And I understand feeling bad for your favorite character on television, but remember, there's a lot of characters that you do not see on television that are way worse. And I just want to kind of highlight that a little bit. And I'm very excited to see what happens to the house. I hope you'll let me move in at some point.
On Twitter, of course, it's at Ronald Richards, and on Instagram, it's at Attorney Ronald Richards. But yeah, a lot of these housewives, Ryan, they deficit spend because the show says we need some new material.
Yeah.
For the following week, and
they're trying to impress the show
on $1 million listing. They've used my properties, 2 different properties, twice, and the producers come in. They say we got to make it spicy. What could you do to, how could you create some drama here? And I say, well, I won't let one of the realtors come in and show the property. Like they help. It's a TV show. It's not. It's sort of reality, but these people think I got to have this persona that I'm really loaded, and that's what creates the trouble.
I mean, Erika Jayne was an entire persona. Like, that's an entire persona. So it's really interesting. Oh, wait, if Erika Jayne goes back on tour again, can those wages be garnished?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There's a judgment.
Yeah. Okay. Guys, all the information is going to be in the show notes. But thank you for so much time. This went way too quick. I was itching to talk to you since a year ago, but I really appreciate the work you're doing.
We won't wait that long.
Please. Yeah. If there's ever, it's true.
You're on my spouse's approved list, so anytime.
And by the way, I hope your spouse is okay. All joking aside, that kind of crap turns my stomach. So hope she's okay.
He's fine. So let me know. And I'm happy to come on for a refresh as things progress. A lot's going to happen in the next couple months. And, I'll tell everyone right now, Erika eventually is going to go bankrupt or settle. She will never try 7 cases to verdict. It's never going to happen.
Oh, wait, that's it. Well, if she declares bankruptcy, say this week, is she free of all?
She absolutely is. I mean, she'll face some what's called non-dischargeability suits, but I've predicted that is really a very good alternative for her, is to file bankruptcy and show all her cards.
Why doesn't she just do that?
Because she has assets she doesn't want to disclose.
Got it.
And
Okay, cool.
if people paying her bills, she doesn't want us to find out. I know who they are. You don't know
Wait,
who they
wait.
are.
Who
And
are they? Is it the
I
gentleman from
can't tell
Vegas,
you
the
right now
billionaire?
because it's a subject of emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to violate the motion. I mean, I'm. There's a lot of ways to do it. Frankly, I've had a selfish reason. I'm hoping her funding sources say, "Look, let's settle. You know, discovery is not helpful for my friend. Let's get the cases wrapped up." She doesn't really want to. Maybe I'd rather have them pay victims instead of lawyers. But
Yeah.
we just, it's one of those things. But a bankruptcy will have to disclose all of that. All the money she's received from all sources will be disclosed. So I think that's one of the reasons. Also, I think she'd be kind of humiliated for her to file bankruptcy.
Well, yeah,
that's a real possibility.
Further humiliation. Enlightening as always, ladies and gentlemen, Ronald Richards.
All right. Thank you.